Thank you, everybody, for your patience and for your time this evening. My name is Russ Bradford. I'm your council member for District 13, and I have with us tonight Mr. Zach Pinkham. He is the developer wishing to purchase the property on Pleasant Hill Road and put in a 55 and up community for our area. I'm excited about that because that's the type of housing we don't really have in this part of town. So I'm curious to see what he will present and the feedback from the community. I also have Matthew Wilkinson from the council office. He is our planning department liaison. So if we have any questions related to the planning and zoning process, we'll be happy to put those questions over to him. So with that, Zach, I'll allow you to introduce yourself. While you do so, I'll go ahead and make you co-host so you can share your screen.
All right, can you hear me? All right, bear with me. It's my first time on Zoom, so good evening, everyone. I don't know if can everyone hear me? I think they can. I'm Zach Pinkham, and I'm looking forward to trying to develop a 55 plus community in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, a big help for me is my mother as well, because she actually lives in the 55 plus community now in Sun City, Florida, and she'll be with me, a major part with me into developing the property. But she's not with me right now. So how do I share like pictures or anything on here?
At the bottom, there's a box that says share screen.
Okay.
Click that, and then it'll let you pick which screen you'd like to share. So if you have pictures or a PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I'll go ahead and say for those watching on Zoom and Facebook, if you're on Zoom, feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, and I'll be checking Facebook as well to see what comments we have on there.
Definitely.
I can see your screen.
Okay. Can you see me not knowing what to do here? You can see, so I've shared the screen and the desktop, or just the picture?
I just see the picture.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm trying to see if I can share multiple. Okay. I have a basic outline. Hopefully people are able to see that.
Yeah, I can see that on my end.
Okay. So for the basically I'd have to make a new entry going off of Bell Road, or excuse me, Pleasant Hill Road. And it'll be a gated community, but I'll have the clubhouse kind of coming out of the gated community, so new people that want to check out the community or anything can park outside the gated community and someone can assist them around and show them, the area everywhere. And of course, it's 4 separate buildings all around, and then we're gonna have a tree line around the whole thing, and then there's homes up on the north, and then there'll be a tree line and garages and a large road between the houses and the building. That way the building's not no one's overlooking someone's land, and of course no one wants to turn around in their backyard and look at a building or anything overlooking their land, of course. That'll probably be around 70 to 80 feet away, the building, with the garages and the road and the tree line, if that makes sense. And then it'll have a gated dog park, putting greens and chipping, tennis courts, pickleball courts, bocce ball, a resort style walk-in pool. And then I can name more amenities that'll be inside. Of course, each building will have an elevator. There will be the pet park and the pet wash. There'll be concierge services for everyone. Fire pits, arts and crafts rooms, a movie room with movie nights, billiards, of course, trash valet, housekeeping and laundry. And then there's going to be a demonstration kitchen where there'll be cooking and baking classes. Of course, social gatherings, wine tastings, happy hours, social hours, potlucks, holiday parties, a 24-hour resident lounge, a 24-hour fitness and yoga studio, and then a his and her separate saunas, and a game room for cards and whatnot. I'm sure there'll be some lots of rummy, or at least that's what I know how to play.
So how many units are you hoping to get out of this?
Honestly, it was gonna be a little under 200, so between 150 and 200. If it and the because it's a little under 9 acres, so there's a lot of land. So I know the picture doesn't do it justice, but like the amenities in the middle, it won't take up that land at all like that. I drew it a little too big, of course. Like the tennis court really isn't that big. I probably should have drawn it more to scale so it would make more sense for you to see how much land there is.
You're looking at 2-story, 3-story, 4-story.
I wanted the only one that I wanted it to be 3 stories and maybe 4 stories in the entry on the south, if it's possible to see the lake from there.
And would these all be rentals, or would there be some that would be offered for purchase? Would there be a mixture, or would it all just be rentals for the community?
Right now it hasn't been a final decision, but right now I've just been looking at rentals.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I should look at the green line or the screen at you on the screen. It's kind of different.
I'm checking to see if there's more questions coming through.
Okay.
So someone's asking where these homes will be. So if you are coming down Bell Road and turn onto Pleasant Hill Road, There's a church down on Pleasant Hill Road. It's Whitset Chapel, and this is going to be up behind that property. To the right of the property on the Bell Road side, I believe there's a Church of Christ that's actually on Bell Road. So this is kind of behind both of those churches. Do you happen to have maybe an idea yet of square footage for the units, or are we just kind of still looking at a high level overview?
Yes, I did have. It was going to be around like 40 by 30 on average. 30 by 30 and 40 by 30. They'll be around 900 square feet. That'd be the smallest. One bedroom would be 900 square feet, up to 1,300 square feet.
And do you have an estimate of what the rents would be for those different units?
No, sir, I do not. I have looked at what's the closest, 55 plus rentals there are. And I saw that they were offering one bedrooms for 1,900, which I thought that was pretty crazy, but I'd probably just be competitive with whoever's the closest, like them. I would try to be competitive, have competitive pricing.
That's one reason this project piqued my interest, because there's not that many communities like this that in this area. You would have to go out to Mount Juliet to
Yeah.
Del Webb, or go down to Cool Springs, Brentwood, and you've got Avenida and other types of complexes like this. And there's only one 55 up community that I can think of in the Donaldson Hermitage area, and it's right there off of Dodson Chapel, and they're more built like cottage homes. So we don't really have anything like this that's kind of the condo apartment style community. So I can imagine it'll probably be difficult trying to get the right price or figure out your prices, but I'm sure I'm sure that research can be done.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that the one I gave an example of is in Franklin, Tennessee, more than 20 minutes away, and they're asking that much, which is very interesting.
Someone is asking what is the current zoning. I checked. The current zoning is R15, I believe. Matthew, you could probably correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct. It's R15. And it's also in the T3 neighborhood maintenance community character area. So something like this will almost certainly require a land use plan amendment, which would be conducted by the planning department in addition to any rezoning. And that would necessitate another community meeting on this, as well as looking at surrounding parcels as well. So just throwing that out there as well.
Okay, good to know.
Councilman, if I could just say one thing,
Go ahead.
there is another. I'm with the Donaldson. I'm on the board of directors for the DHNA. There is another 55 plus going over in the Bonas. It'll be over there next to the river. Councilman Roten is in charge of that community, and they're in the process of building homes, and those are going to be homes just like Del Webb. They're not going to be apartments.
Thanks for the update, Andy.
Sorry?
I said thanks for the update.
You bet.
There's no more questions in Facebook or Zoom. There were some questions on Facebook about if there'll be apartments or condos. I went ahead and answered that your thoughts are if we go the route of like the complexes in Franklin, Brentwood, they would be rental apartments, but only for 55 and up. Correct.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from viewers about the zoning or, okay. Gail is asking who would manage and maintain this community? So would you do an HOA or would it be the management company?
I would hire a management company to be hands-on every day.
And would that management company be in charge of like the clubhouse, the grounds, the
Everything.
events and activities?
Yes, sir. It'd be a lot. It would bring the community will also bring almost 30 to 40 jobs of just daily people working every day. From lifeguards to grounds crew to, people giving tours and management and things like that.
All right, everyone. I'm sure there's probably some more questions out there. Now's your chance. I see you have a picture here of some trees. Is that a kind of an example of the type of landscaping you'd like to do along
Yes, sir.
this entry road?
Yeah, a lot of dogwoods. I think they're definitely beautiful, especially this time of year.
Okay, we've got a question on Facebook. What zoning is being considered? So it sounds like, I'll go ahead and answer this, and Matthew, you can correct me. It sounds like at this point we would probably have to go an SP route.
Just jumping in real quick, SP is an option for a standard. The unit count he was throwing out, 150 to 200, is between 17 units to 23 units per acre. I don't think the full 200 is going to be doable regardless of changing the land use plan amendment. So you're looking at around a maximum of 20 units an acre, which would, this could also be done under RM20. But like I said, that would be a part of the community, the land use plan amendment to see if that's even possible here. So an SP or RM20 is probably the most likely route.
Okay. Any special provision for traffic onto Bell Road? So this particular property where the entrance is, it's far back from Bell Road. So if this was to go through the planning part, I'm sure they would look into that and if need be make recommendations about any traffic control or any impacts it would have on Bell Road. But this entrance to this community is not directly on Bell Road. It's a side street.
And if I can just jump in, with the unit counts being proposed as they are, this would trigger a traffic study. So Public Works and Planning would look at the impact of the traffic coming out of here onto the adjacent street, as well as onto Bell Road due to proximity and all of that. And they would be required to do improvements as needed.
Do you have, from Paula, do you have a time frame to get started or a timeline for completion?
Honestly, from everything being so busy, the rezoning looks like it would take probably more than a year just to get the rezoning. I mean, everything's so busy, but it would be years till it's completely done 100%. So I don't have an exact time. It just depends on the rezoning, of course, and how quickly I can get that done before I can start working on it.
Got a question. I'm assuming this question is referencing the building you're showing here on screen. Is that building of the clubhouse or what? I believe you're just showing that as an example of the aesthetic you're going for. The
Yes,
style
sir.
Okay. So you're looking at something kind of like that farmhouse style.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going back and forth checking for questions. Question about if we went the SP route, could you limit it to 55 and up? Matthew, I want to kick that one over to you.
We cannot regulate that through zoning. That's illegal. That's a violation of the Fair Housing Act. It's a federal law. That can only be done through private HOA covenants and restrictions, and we cannot condition zoning on anything related to that or related to ownership versus long-term rentals. So those two things are completely hands-off on our end at Metro.
So to make it a 55 up community, that'd be on the developer side once they set up the management and the.
Yeah, that would be in the their management agreement or within their own policy if it's a rental community. If they end up doing a owner-occupied community, that would be within the HOA.
Gail is asking how many people would live in each unit. How would you maintain an age limit of 55 and up? We just answered that one. And would there be an HOA over this community? That goes back to this, there would be a management company and they would be the ones that would set the age criteria. So the first question, how many people would live in each unit?
There'll be 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms offering, usually in the 55 plus. So, I mean, it could be, usually it's 1 couple or 1 person. And then the 2 bedrooms are when you want to have a guest. If people regularly, if they plan on having guests, they get the 2 bedroom.
It's get a question from Matt. Is this your first development project or there are other communities that we could reference?
This will be my first 55 plus community.
But have you done other projects that are not 55 and up?
I've done some smaller apartments, but not a big community, not a 55 plus community.
Whereabouts are those apartments? I'm sure there would be people on watching this call that probably would want to drive by and kind of take a look at them.
Oh, they're in Louisville, Kentucky. So
okay, so this would be your first project in Nashville.
Yes.
Okay. There was a question about the square footage of apartments. I believe you said a 1 bedroom, you'd probably be looking at 900 square feet for 1 bedroom.
Yes, sir. That's the minimum. 900 to, and then 900 to 1,300 square feet from 1 bedroom to 2.
Well, y'all are asking some good questions tonight, so keep it up. Someone stated that we probably should have more discussion. This won't be the last meeting we have, just like with other projects that we've had in this area. If the community decides they want to go ahead and go, kind of go forward with this and get it to planning, between now and that point, we can have further discussions and kind of, Mr. Pinkham has been very, in our conversations, very eager and willing to hear what the community would like. And so the purpose of this meeting is just go ahead and put his ideas out there for y'all to see and for the feedback from the community. So I am very open to having more meetings to discuss this and to figure out what we like. Now, if we do not do the SP, then the community doesn't really dictate what the style of the structures or certain details, but a rezoning period would trigger the community meetings, like Mr. Wilkinson said. So we'd still have an opportunity to be heard during this process. So, Mr. Pinkham, I'm sure you'd be open to having a few more meetings before you even submit it to planning, so we can make sure there's a good product there.
Yes, sir. Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Paula is asking, have you already purchased the property?
No, ma'am. I'm in discussion. I have it under contract, but it has not been closed.
Someone, Mr. Truby is asking about the Louisville projects. Do you have an address for those so that they can maybe do like a Google Maps or Street View?
Well, there it's just quadruplexes. It's not like a apartment complex. I
Does the
don't have
community-
any. I don't have an apartment complex to give an example of.
Okay. See, this might be a question for Mr. Wilkinson. Question from Matt: what repercussions are there should the developer sell the property or change management companies? Is there a way to ensure that it stays 55 and up?
No, there isn't a way to do that. So zoning goes with the land, it doesn't go with the owner. And management companies change all the time. Just like even from year to year, it's about contracts and whatnot. So because we can't regulate 55 plus in the zoning at all, that has to be something on the private end. There's a trust, you have to have a trust factor for that, that they're going to do that, because there's no way Metro can enforce that or stipulate that.
Okay. And going back and forth, checking for more questions. All right, looks like we've gone through all the questions so far. I've seen a couple questions that were repeats of topics we've already discussed. James Cortez is asking how many units. You initially stated around 200, but we've since learning from planning that we're looking at something probably less than that. Kind of though. Mr. Wilkinson, are we looking at more of a 150 or closer to 120?
So 150 would be about 17 units an acre. The absolute most that they could possibly do there, even with the land use plan amendment, very high end would be 20 units an acre. So maybe a little bit more, but planning might want to see 15 units an acre instead, which would drop that down to maybe like 130, 135 unit. But that would be up to planning. So that would be something that I would recommend the developer reach out and have a conference with them.
Mr. Truby is asking about a more traditional style home. So beginning of the meeting, I discussed that the 55 and up communities is a type of housing we don't really have in the district. We've got a lot of single family homes and that may be owned by older couples that may be looking to downsize. So one thing that kind of piqued my interest on this and drew my attention was that this 55 and up community would allow individuals who are looking to downsize into a smaller place to move into this community, thus opening up their homes, their larger single family homes for newer families to move into the area. So that's why the developer is leaning towards that 55 and up. It's because it's nothing we have out here, and it'd be something that could help kind of open up some of the single family housing stock that we already have to new families. Andy is asking, when will you decide to purchase a property or follow through with the contract?
Well, if the planning, if everything goes well, probably very soon. Because I don't get that much time to decide since we do have a contract, we have a closing date, but I'll probably have to have a few more meetings before I can finally close, just to get a feel of the way we're going. Because if I can't, I don't know, it just depends on the meetings I do with everyone and the conferences. But hopefully I can decide within next month or the following month.
Mr. Cortez was asking where the traffic will go from this location. So the entrance to this property is on Pleasant Hill Road. So if you come out, you'll either go one direction, go towards Pulley and Bell, or you'll go the other direction and eventually come out on Couchville. right, just doing another double check with Facebook, see if there's any more questions. All right, one last call for questions. I just want to be mindful of everybody's time. Here's a good question. Mr. Cortez is asking, will you have to do any blasting with the site? Have you been able to check what that property looks like?
To my knowledge, no. For so far, no, sir.
Okay. Some background is there's been some issues with some of the developments out here using blasting, and it's kind of rubbed the community out here the wrong way just with how it's been done and handled. So the community is very wary of anything that requires blasting.
Understood.
Mr. Truby's asking about traffic study. No, that won't be triggered until this goes to the planning department due to the size. So yes, there will be a planning study, but it has not been conducted yet. If the road right there requires widening, will you be willing to cover the cost of that to widen that stretch of road?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do what needs to be done for me to finish the project.
Okay, it's good to know. All right, it is 6:33. We've got this meeting going until 7 o'clock, but if nobody else has any other questions, Mr. Pinkham, do you have any other thoughts you would like to add or any other comments while we wait to see if there's any additional questions that pop up?
No, sir, and I will not be flipping the property.
All right. Well, if anybody has any additional questions after the end of the meeting or they're watching the recording, feel free to reach out to me at russ.bradford@nashville.gov, and I can make sure those questions get to Mr. Pinkham or the planning. Someone brought up that they think there are caves out there. Mr. Wilkinson, when it goes to planning, is that something that will be looked at by either codes or?
Yeah, so when it'll depend if they do a straight zoning to R20 or RM20, I'm sorry, or RM15. The planning won't look at that at that time. In SP, they might, but generally speaking, they don't really get into that sort of technical detail until the final site plan or the final SP goes in, and that's when they'll be required to actually do a full-on ground survey and do geotechnical data and all of that other stuff. And they may find caves and sinkholes and stuff out there at that time, but that would come after the rezoning takes place.
All right, well, I appreciate everybody's taking their time this afternoon on Wednesday to hear about this proposal and to provide your feedback. I thank Mr. Pinkham for his desire to meet with y'all and to not just present his ideas, but to hear your questions and to hear your feedback about this. Now, I'll also remind everybody that this has not gone to planning yet. This is more of a conceptual stage of the project. So nothing has been submitted. This is just a rough draft. So wanted to put that out there. One last question that just came in. I will say this is probably for Mr. Wilkinson. I would assume once the traffic study is done, they would determine the parking spaces, or is that something that will have to be done as part of the initial plan when it's submitted?
Again, that goes back to if this is an SP or a straight zone, but that's done at the if it's an SP, they'll probably a design-based SP. They would look at the parking requirements as a part of the initial plan. Otherwise, they are dealt with at the final site plan level, but they are required to meet the parking requirements, which I believe are 1 parking space per bedroom. I'd have to double check. I don't have the zoning code in front of me, but it's in Title 17 if you want to look it up.
Okay. Okay, I did one last check for questions on Facebook, not seeing any. Again, if you have any questions afterwards that you'd like for me to relay to the developer, shoot me an email, russ.bradford@nashville.gov, and I'll make sure that those get to Mr. Pinkham. Mr. Pinkham, I appreciate your time this afternoon, talking to the community. I'm sure we'll be in touch with as a follow-up in the next several days. And thank you everybody for your time tonight. I'll give y'all back half hour of your evening. Enjoy time with your family, stay warm, and have a good night.
Thank you.